If you've recently upgraded to an Xbox Series S, then now is a great time to upgrade some of your favourite games as well. And to help you do that, we've put together a list of some of the greatest remasters that Xbox has to offer. Bex, take us away.
What if you had Grand Theft Auto, but nothing has to make sense and everyone is completely insane? That's pretty much the premise for Saints Row the Third, and yes, it is exactly as much fun as it sounds. Terrorize the city in a hoverjet or run through the streets in your underwear wielding an electrified sledgehammer, wage war on an all-powerful crime syndicate, or commit insurance fraud by hurling yourself into oncoming traffic. The choice is entirely yours. But whatever you do, you're sure to look good doing it now that the game has been optimized for the Series X and S, with a buttery smooth 60fps frame rate. The fact that this has only just been released means there's a whole remastered city that's just waiting for you to explore it.
If you're going to play a game set off in a newfangled future where humanity has spaceships and laser guns and weird hologram sword thingy-mabobs, you want to look as sleek and as futuristic as possible, I would imagine. With that in mind, and only just released in May, the Legendary Edition gives Mass Effect just the shine and polish it needed. As you lead Commander Shepard in their quest to save the galaxy, you'll enjoy every epic set piece and heartbreaking cutscene with improved textures, better lighting effects, a higher resolution, and a slick 60 frames per second frame rate on the Series S, or a light speed ready 120 frames per second exclusively on the Xbox Series X. Yep, that is right. It's the only console on the market that can have that boost.
If you've been playing Resident Evil Village lately, you've likely found yourself standing in a nightmarish castle surrounded by some manner of Transylvanian terror or another, and thought to yourself, how did it come to this? You can delve back into Chris and Jill's first ill-fated adventure into Raccoon City, retrace Claire and Leon's attempts to escape from it, or go toe-to-toe with Nemesis once again. All in glorious, blood-curdling high definition. As that's all we've ever wanted, to be scared in the most realistic way possible. Gee, thanks Xbox.
Crash Bandicoot is another old-school icon who is currently enjoying a next-gen renaissance. With Crash 4, it's about time picking right up where the original trilogy left off for a whole new adventure. And if that's got you hankering for a bit of a blast from the past, the trilogy itself has been lovingly remastered with beautifully polished visuals and a spruced up soundtrack that will leave you humming along even as, I actually fall for my death for the umpteenth time. Plus, the steady frame rate keeps the game rolling smoothly even when you're scampering desperately away from a giant boulder. Aside from the ace platforming games, Crash Team Racing is also one of the most beloved kart races of all time, which makes it especially awesome that it too has been given a Nitro-fuelled retooling.
And if you're still seeking more classic cartoon platform action even after you've guzzled that last Wumpa fruit, Spyro's trilogy has also been gorgeously reignited. The vibrant visual overhaul makes each of the game's many worlds look like its own miniature Pixar movie, and it all looks fantastic. Whether you're chasing dinosaurs across a prehistoric world, or battling wizards in front of a giant castle, squaring off against a kebab-wielding tiki statue, or helping out a mummy who is also a dog. Spyro's world has always felt alive with all kinds of bizarre and wonderful details. And now they're even easier to appreciate now that the games have been completely rebuilt for the Unreal Engine 4, leading to a sort of smooth, detailed animation that the original team could only dream of.
Telling stories across 3 different eras of organised crime, the Mafia Trilogy is the gaming world's answer to the mob epics which have dominated the big screens for decades. All the tropes and trademarks are present, from the complex family dynamics to the sharp suits and bloody vendettas. And each game now comes with a little more of that silver screen magic thanks to a finely tailored remastering that helps bring out the cinematic sweep of these sprawling crime stories. Even just driving around feels absolutely amazing if you ask me. 3 beautifully remastered games in one slick collection, you say? Well, that's got to be an offer even you can't refuse.
Few cooler games have ever been made than the original Tony Hawk's Pro Skaters. Between their grungy looks, fine-tuned skating, and banging soundtracks, it's no wonder fans were clamouring for their grand return. Those wishes were granted with a twin-pack remaster that adds some next-gen flair to every kickflip and grind. Whether you're tearing through New York, Philadelphia, or the streets of Marseille, each of the game's concrete playgrounds have been filled with added details, while an immensely improved draw distance means you won't be caught off guard by an unexpected obstacle while you're racking up those points. And it looks even better on the Series X, where it's been optimized with 4K support and a slick 60 FPS frame rate that'll make grinds look all the smoother and your falls look all the funnier.
Thanks to their mixture of bone-crushing combat, shadowy stealth, and good old-fashioned detective work, Batman Arkham Asylum and Arkham City are two of the most acclaimed comic book games of all time. This remaster not only includes both those games, but all of the DLC that was subsequently released for each of them, meaning this thing is more packed with killer content than the Dark Knight's very own utility belt. And if that doesn't satisfy your caped Crusader cravings, well, there's always Arkham Knights to follow it up with, which Game Pass members can download without spending a single penny. Speaking of which, by the way, let's move on to a list of beautifully remastered games, all of which are just a button press away with Xbox Game Pass.
From a noble vigilante who devotes his life to protecting the innocent, to a small alien that likes to probe people, explode things, and launch cows in the sky. Okay, so Destroy All Humans is never going to play to more of our honourable instincts, but it does create a perfect retro sci-fi tinted sandbox for you to run amok in. And with the game's shiny HD remaster, you'll really be able to appreciate the expressions of bewilderment and fear on the faces of all your unsuspecting victims. This game won't make you a better person, but it will let you force another person to disco dance using your alien mind powers. And that certainly counts for something.
Game Pass players with a Series X and S are all anxiously waiting the day one release of Halo Infinite in all its next-gen glory, but until then they can go enjoy a high-def trip back through the series highlights thanks to the Master Chief Collection. I know I sure am right now. And you can even toggle between the original graphics and the new ones at the push of a button, which is an incredible way to see just how far we've come since the green guy first stepped onto our screens. Described as a living anthology of the series, it includes the definitive version of all 4 main Halo titles plus ODST and Reach, all of which, by the way, have continued to receive updates and upgrades. They've even made the jump onto the Series X and S with optimizations that include an eye-wateringly smooth 120 frames per second frame rate and a variable field of view, giving players just a wee taste of next-gen Halo to tide them over until Infinite drops.
Gears of War is another iconic Xbox franchise which has Game Pass players absolutely spoilt for choice, giving them access to all 5 of the main entries as well as spin-offs like Tactics and Judgment. Along the years, we've learned that there are plenty of ways to skin a locust, and Game Pass basically lets you try out all of them. But if you want to go back to where it all began and experience your first chainsaw rev all over again, the Ultimate Edition is the way to go. Marcus's first attempt to stop the Horde has never looked better, with every bulging bicep and blood-splattered Lancer now complemented by a high-definition overhaul and a smoother frame rate.
The Yakuza series is another great option for Game Pass players who want to binge a single sweeping story with all 6 chapters of Kazuma Kiryu's tale now available. The setting has always been a huge, fundamental part of the Yakuza series, with Tokyo's bustling streets and buzzing neon signs lending the game much of its style and personality. And all of that before you start tearing it apart in a seemingly endless battle against rival gangs, random street thugs, and, well, basically anyone else who fancies throwing down in the middle of a shopping mall. Whether you're crunching skulls in the street or crushing it up in a karaoke bar, every bit of this underworld epic is now as finely tailored as Kiryu's own resplendent white suit.
The gunblades never look so good as they do in these lush Final Fantasy remasters. You can take Squall and his ragtag team of classmates in a quest to assassinate a high-ranking political figure in 8, or return to the tale of a professional athlete who also needs to defeat a gigantic demon in 10 and 10-2. Failing that, jump straight to 12 the Zodiac Age and join our rabble-rousing princess and our sky pirate best friend on their great peacekeeping mission. Whichever one of these wild adventures you choose, you'll be treated to an epic story full of magic, mechs, and mystery, plus countless hours of deep RPG gameplay, all in shiny HD.
Right, let's finish things off with a couple of Game Pass titles that are just for the PC players out there. I see you. First up are the definitive editions of all 3 original Age of Empires games. Now, it's no surprise that this series has a very firm hand on exactly how important it is to know your history. So you'll find each game perfectly preserves what was great about these titles while upgrading them with more polished graphics, fuller soundtracks, and the sort of quality of life updates which all make the difference during a long and arduous campaign. And, of course, once we've all caught up on our history, we still have the long-awaited Age of Empires 4 coming up on the horizon.
Finally, if you prefer slightly more firepower in your real-time strategy games, Command & Conquer is standing by and awaiting your instructions. The new version boasts all kinds of improvements, like a redesigned UI, mod support, upscaled cinematics, and a totally remastered soundtrack. And while it was never designed to be the flashiest game in visual terms, its pristine new 4K graphics makes the action so much more legible even when things start to get hectic, which in turn allows you to make better strategic decisions, or to make equally terrible decisions with a much higher degree of clarity. That part is really up to you.
So there you have it. If you fancy a trip down memory lane but are worried about how some of your old favourites will look once you've taken off those rose-tinted glasses, these remasters are the perfect solution, updating each classic game while preserving everything that made them classics in the first place. Very important if you ask me. Thanks for watching, and feel free to hit us up with a like or a comment, and don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell for all the latest news, tips, and we'll give you some recommendations as well. Bye bye!